So hello, I'm Diane Sellers. I'm a speech and language therapist working at Jaley Clinical Services. My experience of the consultations has ranged from feeling that they were surprisingly good, that they worked surprisingly well, through to feeling rather frustrated, often when the connection was poor. I think it depends hugely on the quality of the connection that you've got through the wiring, the sort of technical connection. So if I think about, I think it's worth checking the connection before you get going. I know that there was one session that I had that was very fuzzy. I could barely see the person talking with me, and I couldn't really see the child who I was supposed to be working with. It was all a bit fuzzy, and it felt like I was on a rather poor family or friends FaceTime conversation, so that didn't work so well. But the ones where it has worked well, I thought it was particularly good as a way of engaging with children, because they work so much better when there's sort of a visual and audio input. I've done a few consultations just with telephone, either because the family haven't got internet access or a smartphone access, so I think we have to be aware of that not all families have the technology that we need in order to do this video consultations, and that children, although they can engage with telephone only, it's not as strong as when there's a video in front of them. So there was one particular child where we were able to use Macaton signing as a way of me understanding what she wanted to tell me. So she's got rather limited speech, which wouldn't work at all well on a phone conversation, but a combination of signing and her attempts at speech seemed to, it worked well via video. It's been helpful as a way of kind of visualizing facial expressions and speech movements, the movements that people need to make in order to produce intelligible speech. The other bit that I think is really helpful on a video consultation is that you get a much better sense of somebody's body language and their emotional state when you're talking with them. I was talking to a colleague yesterday where you are, if you've just got audio only, so you're having a telephone conversation, you say something and it goes silent on the end of the phone, you're not exactly sure whether you've just said something which is quite emotionally charged for the person on the other end of the line. You don't know whether you've actually just lost connection or whether actually they didn't really understand what you said. If you have visual feedback, you get a sense of how the conversation is going. So it is closer to, I guess, a more routine face-to-face consultation. I have to say that I felt most confident using it with children and families who I know, who I've met before, because I've got a sense of context, and we actually know one another better. But I have used it with new referrals, and actually that has worked surprisingly well. And I've managed to do some joint consultations with a speech therapist who knows the child and family well, and I've come in as a sort of visiting specialist, additional information and therapy direction. So we've managed to do these sort of three-way setups, which have been good and productive. So I think there's one child who we've seen at the beginning of lockdown. I think I will be discharging at the end of the month, because she's made such good progress through this sort of video link up. And at the beginning I really wasn't sure that it would be worth even starting the work, so that's been very surprising and helpful actually. One of the things that you have to be prepared to use is a flexible approach, because you're linking up with somebody in their home setting, and that kind of anything goes really. So if the cat joins in or the dog joins in, or siblings pop up in the background, or the child's actually feeling that you're being rather intrusive, that they're not expecting you to appear in their living room at that precise moment when they were busy, occupied doing a quiet family thing. That can be a little bit disruptive to family life. I think as I've gained confidence, I've made better use of it. You have to be comfortable sort of directing that new way of social engagement, and have to feel confident when it kind of goes a little bit off target, because you aren't quite so much in the driving seat as you would be if they'd come to your clinic room. And I know that I am going to use it going forward with some of the children who I have seen face to face, but I would do some follow-up at some distance away, and there is no way I'm going to drive out to do a face-to-face consultation now that I've got this video, this means to access via video. So I think it's a really positive tool to add to our consultation possibilities.